Pat Boone finally reveals the truth about Elvis Presley at the age of 91. On June 1, 1934, Pat Boone was born Charles Eugene Boone in Jacksonville, Florida. He is one of the most durable and adaptable performers in America, a representation of unflappable charm, unshakable faith, and creative flexibility. Boone was raised in Nashville, Tennessee, and his strong Southern traditions and Christian beliefs later served as a pillar of his personal and professional persona. Before earning a degree in speaking and English from Columbia University, he studied at David Lipscomb College, Lipscomb University, then known as David Lipscomb College, and North Texas State University. His education honed his polished stage presence and articulate charisma. In the 1950s, a crucial decade when rock and roll was beginning to emerge as a revolutionary musical force, Boone first attracted widespread attention. He became well known very fast as a clean-cut substitute for the rebellious icons like Elvis Presley that dominated the scene. Boone started his career by singing cover versions of rhythm and blues tunes that were originally performed by black singers. This move was both commended for its contribution to spreading R&B to white listeners and criticized for cultural appropriation. Boone is well known for his silky vocal technique and wholesome image. However, his performances, like Fats Domino's Ain't That a Shame, Little Richard's Tutti Frutti, and Ivory Joe Hunter's I Almost Lost My Mind, achieved enormous commercial success and exposed a larger audience to genres they might not have otherwise seen. Boone had established himself as one of the top names in American music by the late 1950s. He sold over 45 million records, had 6 #1 songs, and recorded over 38 top 40 hits. Millions of people fell in love with his silky melodies and passionate crooning, and his impeccable appearance earned him favor with parents who were skeptical of rock and roll. The fame of Pat Boone did not last. In terms of chart success during the decade, he was only surpassed by Elvis Presley, and he even had a comparable fan base. Boone's popularity extended beyond radio charts. He also established himself as a television mainstay, hosting the Pat Boone Chevy Showroom, a variety show, from 1957 until 1960. This weekly show further solidified Boone's reputation as a household name while showcasing both well-known and up-and-coming musicians. In addition to his achievements in television and music, Pat Boone also pursued a career in film. He appeared in almost a dozen films, such as State Fair, 1962, Journey to the Center of the Earth, 1959, April Love, 1957, and Bernardine, 1957. His public demeanor was mostly reflected in his playing jobs. Reputable, romantic, and morally pure, these qualities contributed to his continued popularity at a period when societal preferences were starting to change. Boone was embraced by Hollywood as the ideal leading man for feel-good movies aimed at young people. He was also well known for declining to play parts that went against his moral principles. This choice occasionally restricted his options but enhanced his reputation as a morally upright role model. Pat Boone had a significant impact outside of the entertainment sector. As a devoted Christian, he wrote books on Christian living, family, and personal morality and regularly spoke at evangelical gatherings, using his position to promote faith-based ideals. Among his best-selling books are Twixt 12 and 20, a teen handbook that sold millions of copies and struck a deep chord with teenagers and their parents. Additionally, he was interested in a number of political and charitable activities, especially those who share conservative and religious beliefs. Boone frequently utilized his famous status to sway discussions on moral and cultural issues and was never reluctant to express his views, especially when they differed from the majority. When Boone released In a Metal Mood No More in the 1990s, both fans and critics were taken aback. Heavy metal covers sung in his traditional crooner style are featured on the CD Mr. Nice Guy. Boone garnered a lot of media attention when he made an appearance at the American Music Awards while wearing black leather. The album showed Boone's ability to reinvent himself and his willingness to take chances, even in his latter years, even though it was humorous and meant as a loving homage to rock and metal classics. The record became a cult hit and exposed him to a newer fan base in spite of conflicting opinions. Throughout his multi-decade tenure, Pat Boone accumulated an impressive list of accomplishments. Several gold albums, over 2,300 recorded songs, over 50 million records sold, and a reputation as one of the most significant crossover performers in American pop music. Beyond the figures, however, is a tradition based on honesty, dependability, and faith. One of Boone's distinguishing traits became his refusal to sacrifice his morals in the name of celebrity. Boone led a stable and scandal-free life, in contrast to many celebrities of his time whose careers were tainted by scandal or excess. He remained married to his high school sweetheart, Shirley Foley, the daughter of country music icon Red Foley, for 65 years until her death in 2019. They had 4 daughters together, one of whom, Debbie Boone, went on to become a successful musician with the popular song, You Light Up My Life. Pat Boone's life and career serve as a symbol of a bygone age in entertainment, when performers were evaluated not only on their skill but also on the ideals they stood for. He is still, in many respects, a representation of pure American culture. He is frequently recognized more for his ideals than for any specific recording or performance. However, it would be unjust to ignore his groundbreaking work as a crossover artist, his success in a variety of media, and his significant contributions to the popularization of early rock and roll. Pat Boone has persisted in performing, giving speeches, and supporting causes that he believes in as of the 2000s and 20s. Even in his 90s, he is still a lively and well-spoken individual who shares his thoughts on faith, life, and music. His talent and perseverance are demonstrated by his tenure in the public eye and his capacity to maintain cultural relevance in the face of shifting standards and times. As he approaches the end of an incredible life and career, 91-year-old American singer, actor, and author Pat Boone has shared frank thoughts about his complicated and frequently misinterpreted connection with Elvis Presley, one of the most renowned individuals in music history. The exact nature of the relationship between Boone and Presley, 2 legendary individuals of the 1950s who contributed to the rock and roll revolution, has been the subject of decades of conjecture by both fans and music historians. Their paths differed significantly in terms of style, image, and personal convictions, despite the fact that both were youthful, charming, and chart-topping singers who found themselves at the center of America's cultural change. Boone's urge to correct the record has grown over the past few years. He has started to share more intimate stories, unsaid emotions, and insights about Presley that he had previously kept to himself out of respect for his fellow performer and the intense public scrutiny that surrounded them both, all with the clarity and wisdom that come from a life well lived. Boone explains how the media frequently made up or exaggerated tales of their rivalry during the height of their careers, producing a competition narrative that was much more sensationalized than accurate. Boone now admits that he had always respected Elvis for his unadulterated skill, unwavering devotion to music, and the allure he exuded on stage. He remembers his early meetings with Presley at TV shows and recording facilities, characterizing him as intensely committed to his art yet rather reserved off stage. One of the few people in the business who realized early on that Elvis wasn't merely a heartthrob or a trendsetter was Boone. He would have a lasting impact on American culture as a revolutionary. However, Boone also admits that their careers took different paths. Elvis adopted a bolder, more rebellious image that made him an emblem of adolescent defiance and sexual liberation, while Pat built his career on clean-cut, wholesome performances that matched his pious Christian upbringing. Boone candidly considers how their public personalities were affected by this contrast. He outed that despite being frequently viewed as Presley's safe substitute, he never took offense at the king of rock and roll's fame. In reality, he frequently believed that by extending the definition of popular music, Elvis's popularity created opportunities for other artists, including himself. By being honest today, Boone also expresses his more profound grief over Elvis Presley's tragic life story. He acknowledges that, given the burden that came with being a larger-than-life personality, he was devastated by Presley's gradual descent into addiction and loneliness. Boone remembers wishing he had been able to assist Elvis more. That things might have turned out differently if there had been more open discussions, more sustaining friendships, or greater spiritual direction. Boone, a lifetime supporter of faith-based living, states that he believes Elvis was looking for something more profound, a relationship with God, a sense of purpose, and serenity, but that he was too frequently surrounded by individuals who nourished his fame rather than his soul. Despite his initial underestimation of Elvis's longevity, Boone today acknowledges that he soon realized the extent of his musical brilliance and emotional expressiveness. Elvis have a raw quality. Boone exposes something you couldn't teach. He connected with a primal force that spoke straight to people's souls and hearts. He was a phenomenon, not merely a performer. In his thoughts, Boone recounts instances of sincere camaraderie, informal discussions on faith, celebrity, and the demands of unexpected success, as well as joint appearances on early television programs. And even late-night phone conversations during which the two men shared their goals and anxieties. Pat Boone also admits that their careers took different turns, both musically and spiritually. While Elvis battled more openly with inner demons, popularity, and personal upheaval, Boone, a devoted Christian throughout his life, stayed grounded in conventional principles and frequently used his position to preach moral themes. Boone, however, declines to pass judgment. Rather, he describes Elvis as a sensitive soul crushed by the weight of being larger than life and provides empathy and insight into the toll that popularity exacted on him. Boone's final thoughts are a mixture of appreciation, grief, and thankfulness. He describes Elvis as a fragile, intelligent, troubled, giving, and misunderstood man in addition to being a cultural icon. It took me a while to see past the glitter and cacophony of Boone's confessions, but when I did, I saw someone who yearned for love, tranquility, and a place to rest. In the end, I wish we had spoken more. I wish I had been able to assist him. Boone now finds solace in recalling the times of kindness, adoration, and calm understanding they shared as he reflects on a friendship that was more subdued and polite than spectacular. Elvis was a decent man. In recent interviews, Boone has expressed strong emotions in his voice. His heart was lovely. He had difficulties, just like everyone else, but they were made public. It would have been great if more people had seen the genuine Elvis, not just the performance. Speaking the truth about Elvis at this point in his life, according to Pat Boone, is about more than just dispelling long-standing rumors. It's about paying tribute to a fellow musician who transformed the world with his music in spite of personal struggles and social constraints. By doing this, Boone also underlines his own legacy as a man of compassion, faith, and unwavering honesty, in addition to being a talent who once challenged Presley on the charts. Pat Boone had one of the most productive musical careers in popular music history, spanning several decades. It is estimated that he has officially recorded over 2,600 tracks over his remarkable career as a music artist. This astounding figure not only demonstrates his extraordinary work ethic and commitment to his profession, but it also displays his flexibility and prodigious production. To put this accomplishment in perspective, very few musicians have accumulated such a large collection of recorded songs, regardless of genre or time period. Boone's vast career shows that he was a performer who continuously brought fresh music to his listeners, frequently including a variety of genres from pop and country to gospel and standards, thereby establishing a long-lasting reputation in the music business. The sheer volume of his albums also points to innumerable studio hours, partnerships with gifted musicians and producers, and a persistent desire to develop and appeal to a wide range of listeners. With 38 of his tracks reaching the coveted U.S. Top 40 charts, Pat Boone enjoyed considerable commercial success throughout his career. His status as a significant figure in American pop music is cemented by this remarkable collection of charting singles, particularly in the 1950s and 1960s when he was at the pinnacle of his fame. He achieved the top spot on 6 of his 38 hits, demonstrating his broad appeal and the popularity of his songs among listeners. Reaching the top of the charts represents both financial success and cultural influence because these hits were iconic songs of their time, were played on radio stations, and influenced other musicians. Boone's skill as a musician and the astute management and promotion of his career are both evident in his ability to routinely place singles in the top 40. Pat Boone's unheard-of run of consecutive weeks on the U.S. charts is among his most notable and enduring records. He held the record for the most weeks in a row with at least one track in the U.S. Top 100 charts until the 2000s, with 220 weeks. This amazing accomplishment demonstrates a prolonged span of fame and relevance that few other musicians can equal. In addition to producing song after hit, staying on the charts for more than 4 years in a row required the ability to engage people across shifting musical trends and tastes. Boone's amazing stability and his unique position as a consistent presence in the American music industry are highlighted in this record. Maintaining this record for such a long time further solidifies his reputation as a performer who dominated the airwaves and was adored by fans for a long period of time in the history of pop music.